A very special bench dedication ceremony in honor of two extraordinary teachers who have touched the lives of so many children in the town of Johnston, especially here at Thornton Elementary. Miss Newman and Mrs. Esposito are ready to start a new chapter in their lives called retirement. Miss Newman, Mrs. Esposito, sit back, relax, and enjoy what's in store for you. Mrs. Denham, our principal, would like to address her two colleagues and dear friends.
Okay, first of all, let me welcome some very special guests. I'd like to start with our superintendent, Dr. DeLullo, and the assistant superintendent, Dr. Petrosinelli. They're standing right over there. We also have some past retirees with us today. Mr. Swanson. Ms. Ratcliffe. And everybody remembers Mrs. Hoopus. In addition, we have the families of Miss Newman and Mrs. Esposito. So we have Mrs. Newman. We have Mr. Skeeter Esposito. We have daughters Courtney and grandchildren William, Patrick, and Kathleen. We have Katie and granddaughters Mia, Rainey, and Benjamin. And we have Mrs. Esposito's brother, Peter. And we'd like to welcome, we also have the faculty and staff here and all the children of Thornton School with us today. All being very well behaved. Okay, as Mrs. Iongo, the voice of Thornton, reminded you today, we're here to recognize Marsha Newman and Sue Esposito in their many years of teaching. So let's ask Marsha first, since she's number one on the seniority list. How long have you been teaching, Miss Newman? 40 years. She has touched the lives of over 1,000 children if she only had 25 in each one of her classes. That's really remarkable. Then we have Mrs. Esposito, and how long have you been teaching, Mrs. Esposito? 37 years. So she's touched over 900 children. Mrs. Esposito is number 3 on the seniority list. Do you want to stay a little bit longer and catch up to Marsha? I know, I did that again, huh? Okay, most of these years have been spent here at Thornton, next door to each other, in grade 2. Together, as we look upon all these years, I want to tell you a little bit about Marsha and Sue. They have outstayed 11 principals. I haven't even counted the superintendents. I'm principal number 12, and Dr. DeLullo is somewhere up there, maybe in 35, 40. So, Dr. DeLullo and I have the distinction of outstaying Marsha and Sue, so that's pretty good. Because come September, we'll be the only principal and superintendent that survived a little bit past us. When I think of Marsha and Sue, when they asked me to write this little speech, I thought of fraternal twins. You know, fraternal twins are always together, they do things together. Marsha and Sue are the best friends that you could ever even imagine. But as fraternal twins, they are different, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about Marsha first. Marsha doesn't like the limelight. This is very difficult for Marsha, right? She likes to do the quiet things like head the sunshine for the faculty and staff, or she was a teacher in charge a couple of times for me. And when I first came down to Thornton, she kind of would come in my office and kind of fill me in about the history, because I didn't know all about the history, even though I was once colleagues. And her last words were, if I say, well, you know, Marsha, we're going to try this year and do this and this, and she'd say, okay, that's good. She'd say, but I don't want want to be around when you tell Sue. So I say, okay, Masha, I'll take care of that. Now, Sue, let's talk about Sue. Sue is theatrical. Sue has participated in the Thornton dance recital several years, right? You played cheer at one time. She's been a star at every show she was in. And she's still doing those plays with her children every single year as a tradition. She does a play or two with her classroom. So she has kept all that up. But what's really alike about them, come February, they're on the soup diet. And for 20-something days, we watch them try to lose 10 pounds every single year eating soup. They have more kinds of soup and more recipes for soup than I've ever even known about. So each year they do that. And then after they go on vacation, they go down to see Mrs. Moon. When they come back, they're all tanned. And they insist on wearing their sandals until it's springtime in Rhode Island. At the last faculty meeting, when I wished them the best and thanked them for their service and time, Masha was crying, and Sue asked me if I was sad. But with all kidding aside, with Masha being the number one and touching all those students' lives, the faculty and staff wants me to know that they appreciated your heart of gold. And they really saw that each and every day through your smile. And once again, they are very good friends, and Sue's family is Masha's family also. So they have a wonderful connection not only in school but out of school. And Sue, who's number 3 on the seniority list, she also has a heart of gold, and that's what the faculty and staff really wanted me to bring up today, because they're willing to help not only friends, but they also watch for that student that might need a little bit extra. And that does go a long way. I do have a story in closing, a couple of them to share with you. Another difference with Sue is she likes to win you over to her perspective. And there were a couple of times she was in my office trying to convince me that pumpkin pies and apple pies are really fruits and vegetables. That would definitely go along with our wellness policy. She's still trying to convince me of that. But I think the best story of all is when we put this together, Mrs. Denham put out that there would be a Feinstein assembly. And guess who walked in on Monday morning? Mr. Feinstein, who obviously didn't know that I planned his assembly for today. So I had to explain to him, I can't call an assembly right now. We're going to have to do it on Wednesday. Can you tell them you're coming back on Wednesday, please? He said, I don't understand. I can't come back on Wednesday. So naturally, I had to explain why we needed him here on Wednesday. Well, I want you to know he called this morning. He apologized that he couldn't make today, but he wanted all the boys and girls to know that he did leave your new junior scholar cards, and that Mrs. Den will definitely give them to you before the end of the week, so that you can participate in all his different activities. And in closing, I just want to say that a personal friend of mine who was once a colleague, who happens to be here today, once said a very wise thing. So this is the last thought I want to leave you with. It's time to retire when there's a possibility that you could have the grandchildren of one of your students.
I think that might happen. Wow.